Okay, so tonight, this is either a get to know me episode, get to know us episode, or like join us on a date episode, because I've been wanting to do these questions, these 101 conversation starters for couples. We got it from Gary Chapman's website. Or you got them, didn't you? You bought them for, was it our anniversary? Or my birthday?
We were going to do them on our anniversary date, yeah.
Yeah, and we never got around to it.
Yeah, I got them at Gabe at the Boer's coffee shop. At Gabe and Andy's coffee shop.
And I thought that's such a great idea. And so, yeah, I was genuinely really excited to go through these. We haven't gotten a chance to. And when do we get to talk to each other the most? On the podcast. So join us for an episode of getting to know the Voetbergs as we get to know each other.
Yes. Folks, if you enjoy this podcast, we would love it if you're able to leave a rating or a review on whatever platform you listen on. And if you do watch the podcast on YouTube, if you take the time to subscribe to our channel, leave a hit the like button, maybe even leave a comment. We appreciate all those things, and they actually help our podcast as well. So with that said, let's get this thing rolling.
The Now That We're a Family podcast.
I think it's funny as I'm listening to this introduction. Elisha and I have been recording a lot recently just because we're busy through the summer, and so we try to batch and stuff like that. And both of our voices are like an octave deeper than they usually are. Have you noticed that we're both like losing our voices? Anyways.
I did notice that.
Okay, we sorted through these questions kind of as like what we would want to hear from the other person.
Okay, so are you starting this thing off or am I?
Sure, I can.
Go for it.
Okay, complete this sentence. A time that I felt I might be in physical danger was when...
Boy, that, like 2 months ago, is that what you were thinking of? Or were you thinking like every night? When I...
Either, you know?
I was terrified for our whole household, okay, for the well-being of our household. I don't think I had much interest in, self-preservation in this particular moment. But a few months back, I tell you what, because Amazon is doing all like package fulfillment now, like you don't see UPS trucks anymore. Like Amazon's taking all their routes. I don't see FedEx as much as I used to anymore. And Amazon delivery people have all these unmarked vans. And so, I mean, I know there are some marked Amazon vans, but some of these other people, I don't know if they contract random people, but they pull up to your house at all hours of the night in these unmarked vans. And I wasn't accustomed to this a few months back.
Well, I feel like you kind of blew the punchline to the story because...
Oh, I mean, whatever. Sure. The point is that it was a late night.
It was Halloween.
Halloween. Wow. And I don't know what we were doing. Maybe, it was a church. We went to our church. It was a small group at night at our church. And we stayed late kind of on purpose because we usually stay clear of our neighborhood on Halloween as best as we can. When we're at home, we keep the lights down. But yeah, it was Halloween, and a bunch of things were happening. Okay. So previously, like pretty soon before Halloween, Hamas had declared like a day of vengeance or something like that I got some text messages about from like not panicky people, from people that are like sober minded. They're just kind of like, hey, just be aware, and because especially with the southern border, like you don't know where they're going to be making their next attacks. This was obviously shortly after the Hamas attack in Israel. And so I was a little on edge with that stuff, and I had gone above and beyond and making sure I knew where whatever, measures of defense I have, knowing that they were accessible. And so we got home from our event at 11, which is really late for us. We put the kids to bed, and you and I were doing some work stuff before we went to bed up on the couch. And I hadn't seen these vans deliver packages to our home at all until this point. And the guy pulls up, and it's crazy because the way he had a headlamp on, but it wasn't turned on. And when I saw him through through the passenger side door, I thought it was like night vision goggles or nods or whatever, not night observation devices. And I was like, dude, this is it. Like this is the attack. And I froze up.
Too many Navy SEAL podcasts.
I think it's my Vince Flynn CIA spy books that actually are detrimental to my imagination. And so this was the first time in my entire life. I don't even know if I should say this. It sounds crazy, because I tell you what, if you drive for those in one of those situations, like, I feel like you need to make yourself more known, because this is the first time I've ever gone and grabbed my AR and was ready.
Well, the guy
What were you
turned
saying?
on his light, he gets out of the car, and then he goes around to the back.
Yes.
And you're like, Katie, a bunch of guys are going to jump out of this van. Like, I'm going to go get my gun. You watch them. So I'm like standing up in our dark living room, watching this guy with the headlamp going around in the back of the room.
Well, I gave you my pistol. So I got my pistol
Oh,
first,
yeah,
because that
you
was
gave
on
me
me.
the pistol.
And then I was like, what is this pistol going to do against 5 guys in body armor, fully kitted out, you know?
Attacking our suburban neighborhood
Yeah.
in Idaho.
And so I was like, okay, I've got to get a better weapon here. And so I gave Katie, and we had a pretty good vantage point. So I gave Katie my pistol, and Katie's pretty good with a handgun, actually. So I was pretty confident that would, buy me a few seconds to run and grab my AR. And then I come up, and I'm sure if this guy got a glimpse of us, I'm sure he thought he was like pulling up to the most like insane couple's house ever. Like, he's walking up to our door, and there's just 2 psychos standing. I mean, we never pointed our weapons at him, obviously.
No.
Like, we're pretty conscientious of firearm safety.
I didn't think it was a terrorist attack.
Yeah. I never took the safety off or anything like that in my AR. And then he brought packages and left. And so that's the whole story.
So that was a time you felt like you were in physical danger. But
I thought our
really, it
whole
was
house
the
was.
mailman that was in physical danger.
Yes, and it's crazy because now those vans are a lot. We see them a lot more often now, and I'm more aware of who they are. But I still think it's a bad idea to pull up to people's houses at 11:30, 11:45 at night, and these unmarked panel vans. Because, yeah, I've got an imagination and I've read too many spy books, but I think even the average person knows that that's what the bad guys drive, is these unmarked panel vans. And on a Tuesday night, 11:45 suburb, I don't know. It's just, it's not a good look.
Halloween, so you just don't know if someone.
I was jumpy on that night too. Yeah, exactly. So anyways, nobody died. And we made it through.
Thanks for kicking us off. That was a funny night. We were laughing about it then. We're still laughing about it now.
Yeah. What I was laughing about.
When you told your dad this story, he was just shaking his head like, what is wrong with you?
What's funny to me, I cannot tell you how real I thought it was. Like, it was really, my adrenaline was going, and I was like, this is it.
Yeah, you didn't go to bed that night.
No.
I definitely went to bed by myself. Anyways, that was a
Somebody had
fun
to keep
story.
watch.
That was a fun story. Yeah, so anyways, we have lively adventure here in our home. We go on many adventures regardless of whether or not they're like based in reality.
Right.
We have our own virtual reality here. No goggles required.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, I'm going to ask you one of these.
Voteberg Music Academy is different than other music lessons because the whole family can learn together. So instead of paying for each individual to learn music, which Elisha and I know from past experience can add up to thousands of dollars a month that our parents paid for private music lessons, families are able to learn by instrument. So we love seeing mothers and daughters and fathers and sons and siblings all learn guitar together or all learn piano together for less than $40 a month. So if that sounds like something that you are interested in, we have a coupon code listed in the description box to get you started for 10% off every month that you are a part of the Voteberg Music Academy community.
Which of the following would you find most gratifying? Earning a PhD, publishing a best-selling book, recording an original chart-topping song, or winning an Olympic gold medal? Whoa.
Those all have been aspirations at some point in time. Not the chart-topping song. Not that one.
Yes.
That's an easy rule out. Olympic medal, I gave up when I was like 6, when I heard you have to dedicate your life to it. Okay, the other two were the book or the PhD.
Yep.
And both of those honestly sound really appealing. I think honestly, there's so much honesty here.
Yeah.
I would probably go for the PhD.
Okay.
I think that would be more rewarding. I think you can potentially publish, not us at this stage in life, but like there's a potential you can force publish a best-selling book. Like there's a lot of hustle involved with it.
Sure, there's kind of a formula out
Growing
there.
your platform. Yeah, it's like how much do you want to bleed out your eyeballs to push your book? And I do want to write a book one day, and we've worked on one, and like that is a dream of ours to like one day do something like that. But I don't know if like having it be a bestseller is an end all be all to me. It's more like I want it to be a must read. Like I want our people to be like, oh, this was written to me. I'm going to give it to my friend. So I don't care if it like hits any charts or anything, I guess.
Yes.
Cause I think there's great books that have hit charts, and I think there's books that aren't great that have hit charts. It's more like 10 years from now, I still want people to be handing it around being like, this was a great book. And so, I'd go with the PhD.
Okay. You know what's crazy is, I mean, actually, can I answer this too?
Yeah, what would you choose?
Yeah, and I want to ask you last time that you felt like your life was at risk.
Oh, no.
Too, 'cause
No.
yeah,
I don't
that
have.
would be fun to hear.
It's hard to beat your story, you know?
No, I want to hear it from yours. But for me, you know what's funny is that the PhD is the one that stood out to me too, and yet that's not the one that's ever been on a goal list for me. Like all the other ones,
same here.
I've written down on my like to-do list for the year. You know, like win an Olympic gold medal, or record an original chart-topping song, publish a best-selling book. Those have all been goals for me at some point in my life. And yet the one that stands out as being the most gratifying is earning a PhD. And it might be because it does. And you know what's funny is that I said, you know, that there's like a proven more or less path to publishing a best-selling book. There's like a formula to it. Obviously, the PhD is the most formulaic one out of all these things.
Yeah.
It's like, it's very, like all the steps are in place for you to take, and the hoops are there to jump through. But maybe it's because it seems the most unlike me, you know, where like I like playing music. I've liked doing athletics, and then I've enjoyed writing, and yet earning a PhD, I was like, that is, I don't know. It sounds really gratifying as the question puts it.
Yeah, I think something that's appealing to me in that is all the other things. It's kind of like, what are you willing to sacrifice for this to happen? And with the PhD, like I'm at this point in life where I have so many things I'm unwilling to sacrifice or unwilling to compromise on, family life wise, lifestyle wise. Whereas like PhD, it's like, okay, give me 10 years, give me 5 years, and you can get that without having to bleed out your eyeballs. You know what I mean? If you're just consistent and steady over time taking classes.
Yeah, it would take me longer than 5 years. But I'd be the 10 years. Is that what you said? 10 years and 5 years? 10 years for me, 5 years for you?
Ongoing education has been appealing to me because this part of reality of like, okay, I could technically do that in like mornings and evenings and still keep our home life, still keep everything rolling. Whereas like, okay, being an Olympic athlete, no. You know, writing a best-selling book, at least there's going to be a massive promotional period where it's like, what? You're touring like crazy. Who's going to watch the kids? You know what I mean? Just like, and then I need voice lessons for like 30 years to ever get the chart-topping hit. So that one's just out of the question.
Yeah, I feel like the chart-topping song, that one, it seems like a lot of chance is involved, as with the winning an Olympic gold medal. And obviously the book. There's a lot of chance in all of those things.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Obviously hard work. I'm not saying that people that win those they all have to work crazy hard.
But it's all compared against other people.
Right.
Factor in.
Exactly.
There's variables outside your control.
Yes.
Whereas the PhD, most of it's within your control.
Yes, exactly.
Given enough time and effort.
Yeah. Anyways, that's a fun question.
Yeah, that
it's funny that
is.
stuck out to you because that's the one that stuck out to me as well.
There you go. That's what Elisha and I are going to do in our
But real
golden
quick,
years.
do you have an answer for the last time you felt like you were really scared, or in physical danger?
And physical danger? I think the first one that comes to mind is because Elisha made such a big deal of it. And we were dating, and I went to get my computer fixed. And it was down in Southern California, and I ended up going like behind this guy's house to his garage. And being back there while I checked out my computer, and I told Elisha about it, and we were dating, like I said, and you freaked out, and it was one of those moments where you realize, especially now, like, oh, that was a really dumb thing to do at 20 years old, but at the time I just was like, what is your deal? Like, I was aware, I knew it was I knew my surroundings the whole time. I knew how to get out of the situation, and that made you more mad. And yeah, so that one really sticks out. And I was in the wrong on that, but that was the first time I'd seen Elisha's like protective instinct come out really strong. And I've since really come to appreciate it and value it and see the wisdom in it. But at the time, that wasn't something that I appreciated.
Sure. Yeah, now you see it every time a delivery van pulls up.
Tonight at dinner,
Yeah.
Elisha's like, squirrel, panel van passed.
I remember that clearly too. And it is funny. I'm sure this happens, this dynamic, I'm sure it is an occurrence in other people's relationship, other couples, where the guy, the protector, wants the wife or the girlfriend or the fiance in our case to take it seriously, and the girl has the classic response of like feeling controlled or feeling, like he's overstepping, especially if you're not married. You're like, whoa, like I'm not a moron. I'm not an idiot. Maybe you feel like I was insulting your intelligence, or your tactical awareness or whatever, situational awareness. And by you saying it wasn't a big deal, the more you say it's not a big deal, the worse it makes it, right?
Yeah.
And the more you say I'm overreacting, like the worse it makes it, because it's like you clearly don't understand. Then yeah, I do remember that.
And now I hear those things in my single sisters. I'm just kind of like, what are you doing? That was the worst idea. But yeah.
Oh, you know what?
Okay, it's my turn.
Okay.
In what way are you most or least? Which one do you want to do? Like your mother.
What?
Okay. I should have added my parentheses after the question. In which way are you most like your mother?
In which ways am I most like my mother?
And most like your father?
And most like my father. Boy, I don't know how to say this without, I admire my parents more than any other humans on earth. And so attributing any of my attributes saying that I'm like them in any way feels like I'm, to me, tooting my own horn or whatever. Most like my mother, most like my father. I do think that for my father, I get a lot of his big picture. He's always been a big picture guy, never get really caught up in the moment, in parenting and business and faith. And the classic is well, let's just sleep on it. Or his tomorrow's a new day. And how many times he's said that growing up when stuff was seemed like a crazy huge deal. When stuff I'm sure was a huge deal in reality to him, whether it was in business or relational struggles, and just really keeping the big picture, with relationships, with business, and really playing the long game. I admired big time. And I think I would hope that I've gotten some of that, where I don't want to get too caught up in the moment. That's one thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, I think you do a great job of that.
Thanks.
I agree. I think there's a lot of strengths that your dad has that you have. But that stability and structure, managing your own emotions despite what's going on around you, is something that I really admire. And like you said, keeping that big picture. I'll get really flustered about stuff that's going on in the moment and the details. And you're like, okay, let's take a step back and look at, 5 or 10 years from now or whatever. And it just really helps calm me down. So I've been really grateful for that.
My mom, I think my mom's a big time reader and a learner, and she loves hearing, thoughts. She, I would hope that I've really adopted a lot of her love for learning, when I think of just in my early teen years. Well, as long as I remember, she's always been reading. She's always been a learner and a grower, or taking courses, doing continued educational courses. And that's always been really inspirational to me. And it's something that I feel like I really enjoy connecting with her over. Is I'm always excited to hear what she's been reading. And I think likewise, she is always curious to ask what I've been reading. And we do a lot of book swapping, right? I go home, I always am looking at her bookshelf and borrowing stuff or asking if I can take some things, and vice versa when she comes here. And so that's something that I really enjoy about my mother, and I appreciate, and something that just comes to mind.
Yeah, I love that about your mom too.
Yeah. How would you answer that question?
In what way am I most like my mom and dad?
Yes.
So growing up, I just thought I was like my dad's twin. Everybody's like, you're like daddy's twin. And I think it's because I'm a big time dreamer and a visionary person. So Daddy and I growing up, I was often like someone he would throw ideas at and we just, build castles in the sky. And it's been so special because Elisha does that with me now. And yet now we both get to do that with my dad sometimes. Yeah. And those are really special conversations. And I just, that's always been something that I really loved with my dad. And I also think, being quick to jump on new ideas. We both really like change and we both really love getting excited about something.
Yes.
So if you say like, oh, let's do this, we might drag our feet for about 30 seconds. And then even if we disagreed with it in the beginning, we're starting to think of ways that would make us like it.
Yes.
Because we want to get excited.
Yeah. Give me one example of when you've drug your feet for even 30 seconds. Like that's... You're really,
like I even think we were having a conversation with my sister and brother-in-law, and I was so opposed to the idea for like 5 minutes. I was like, I don't even want to talk about this idea. Like, I don't want to build this thing. We've got so much going on right now. And then halfway through, I just started getting so excited about, oh, well, this could make it exciting. This could make it exciting. So anyways, and then like my mom, since getting married, I've seen the tendencies I have like mommy, and sometimes Elisha will be like, you're being like your mom right now.
It's always a compliment.
Yeah, he means it in a good way. Sometimes he teases me about some of the ways that I'm like my mom, but I know he loves her and he loves me. So
yeah, I respect and admire her big time.
Yes. But I would say with mommy, I think I'm pretty practical and bottom line, and just kind of want to see, I don't know, what needs to be done. I don't really love like excuses from people, and maybe like, I think a slight lack of empathy. Like my mom is empathetic, but there is an element of like, well, you also have to buck up and do what needs to be done. And I think it can be a strength. It can also be a weakness. But
yeah. I mean, I think with both of you, you've made it to be a total strength.
My mom's super mature. So it's definitely, I think it's a strength for her because it allows her to step in places and say things to people that need to be said that no one's willing to say to them. I think I'm still working on the strength part of it. But
I think you're really gracious.
One day.
Well, the fact is that you hold yourself to a higher standard than you would ever call anyone else to. And I think your mom did the same thing. And so if you never tell people to buck up really, and to just like deal with it and grow up. But and so I think that you are more than gracious with how you interact with people, even though, like you said, you're not the type of person to go talk about your feelings and to let your feelings prevent you from doing the right thing for hours and hours or days and days. It's like you might acknowledge it for 30 seconds with that. And you're like, well, okay, I'm going to
just kind of like mind over matter stuff.
Yeah,
I guess.
Exactly. Okay,
So.
I'm going to fire another one away here.
Okay.
What was something you really wanted, What was something you really wanted but were not allowed to own as a child or teen?
Oh man, this is interesting. Do you know? Does
For
something come
myself?
to mind quickly for you?
I don't think anything pops into my brain right away.
I'm sure there were things. I think growing up, I mean, just in general, I would say clothing. My parents were both very classic dressers, and they appreciated our whole family being classic in our clothing choices. And so we didn't have really much personal style in terms of like when I was like a teen or, I wanted to buy clothes that I felt like, were more my personal style. And there was just a lot of clothes items where it was like, no, it was in poor taste, looking back. And honestly, I'm grateful that my parents had the standards that they had. And now, I wear my collared shirts, my high-waisted skirts, and the majority of my clothes are classic. But I think that there was a period of time there where I don't know quite what I wanted to be. It's like more like hippie or more
You just wanted the
trendy.
You wanted the freedom to express yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what's funny is they big time let up on that with the younger half of girls, because my younger sisters, like 12 years old, were putting together these outfits with this like little fashionistas. And I'm like, how is that flying,
Right.
And some of them are really fashionable classic. Some of them have this like, I don't know what quite style it is. It's just them. And it all happens now in the house. But us older 3 girls were all very classic dressers, and that bothered me through high school. And then I got married. I got to start experimenting a little more, and I realized that classics where it's at. So I'm back where we started.
Yeah, it's different when you're making the choice for yourself, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I have like no resentment towards it. It's just like, okay, if I could think, I really experimented with my shoes. And I think Elisha was really worried about that, because when we got married, I had like 40 pairs of shoes.
Right.
Because that was one area where I had a lot of control for whatever reason.
Wow.
I could like wear different types of shoes.
Wow. Yeah, I do remember you moving in with the shoes. That really blew my mind, because I wasn't aware of that when we were dating and engaged.
Yeah.
And then we come home from our honeymoon and start moving in, and that took up our whole closet. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
It really did.
And now I don't have very many shoes.
Yeah, you've gotten rid of a lot, and then you really don't purchase many new shoes.
Yeah, I think it's because I can buy the clothes I want now.
Yeah, exactly.
That are classic. So what would you say, Elisha, something that you wanted?
Oh, boy. I mean, a couple of my good friends when I was like 9, 10, and 11 were really into skateboarding. I wanted a skateboard. I couldn't get one. I don't know why. Like, I don't, and then same thing. They like, some of my friends had like those Razor scooters, and they were doing tricks. And I mean, you've heard this story. This is devastating, because I like wanted one so bad, and everybody had them, and they were so cool. And then my grandma would always take us, my grandma Marty, who's, one of the the greatest, right? She's awesome.
The goat.
Yeah, the goat. She would take us each on our birthday and buy something with us, right? She would take us to lunch, and she would take us to buy a present. And so I told her that I wanted one of these little scooters, but I didn't know what they were called. And she's like, because at the time they were new in the sense that like most scooters had like the big wheels, and they were like rubber tires. I was like, these are different. They're not like that. They're light, and they're small, and you can like do tricks on them, and you can go to skate parks, with them. And she's like, okay, well, let's go to Kmart and see if they have one. So we went to Kmart, and they had this little scooter, and it wasn't a Razor, okay? And I didn't know that Razor was the brand, and it was the Kmart brand, and it was called a Skeeter. And I was like, well, this I think is the same thing, because it was like the same size. And I brought it home, and it was like 3 times as heavy as the Razors, and it didn't fold up all cool like the Razor, because the Razors fold up, and you can
just as light as a Razor, but the other kids, it's not a Razor.
Yeah, and so
it's not as
remember
cool.
Bringing it to my friend's house, and I was like, yeah, I got a scooter. And they're like, wow, that's not a Razor. They're like, what is that? A Skeeter? What even is that? And I was like, dang it. So that really stuck with me. I was like 9, and so that was devastating. Yeah.
Oh, the Skeeter.
Yeah, the Skeeter. And the wheel, like on the Razors, you would pick it up and you'd like spin the wheel, and it would just spin for minutes. And the Skeeter, I'd pick it up and I spun the wheel, and it like goes twice and then just sticks. I was like, oh man, it was not great.
Oh man. Yeah, you have 2 of the most generous grandmas. We get to share them now. I'm just so grateful for them.
Me too. That's the other thing too. It's crazy because my grandma Corwin was so faithful, still is actually, in birthday money. That I tell you what,
All the
when grandparents do that,
she knows all the grandkids' birthdays.
Yes, and great grandkids.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, greats.
And I think of that, because as a kid, all you know is what you know. And so you're like, oh, grandparents, grandmas take you on dates on your birthday, and they always give you birthday money, and they get you the cool whatever. Like that's all I knew. And then you become an adult, and you're like, that is so above and beyond. Like that is not par for the course. So
just people remembering your birthday, because as a kid you think it's the biggest day of the year. Of course, everyone remembers their birthday.
Exactly.
And then as an adult, you're like, how do I keep track of all this? And then you have these like superior mothers and grandmothers,
right?
Who, mother superiors. That's what they are.
That's who they are.
And they keep track of everybody.
Yes.
And I see like you have like the supreme ones who are like the grandmas,
yes,
right? Who have been doing this for decades. And then I see my mom and your mom growing into that
Yes.
role now.
Right.
And you see them like in training asking their moms how they did it. I'm serious.
Yeah, having such special birthday gifts for each one of their grandkids. That is...
It intimidates me. I don't know if I'm ever going to get there.
Well, because I don't think either of us we're not date remembering people. We're not like birthday remembering people. We're not gift people either. As far as like the love language thing, the 5 love languages, I think gifts are like the last one for either you or I, which is great to be married to a person like that.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic.
But then for like friends or family members or, people that mean something to you, it's not great.
Well, that's the thing. I do think it's a requirement to be a grandma. Like you aren't a grandma that forgets people's birthdays. If you're an intentional grandma, I feel like you have to know.
Well, you better start training now.
I know. I'm actually working on it.
Okay.
Working on developing systems for 40 years from now. Okay. As a couple, we make a great team, but it is most unlikely that we would ever team up to, you say which one? Okay.
Okay, got it.
Win a mixed doubles tennis championship, sing a duet, win a medal in couples figure skating, be main speakers of a nationally televised marriage seminar, compete in a ballroom dancing competition, operate a bed and breakfast, co-author a book entitled Stress-Free Parenting.
So those are all awesome except for the last one. That sounds like a lame title of a book, and so I don't think we'd write a book like that. It's like that's the last thing we would put on the cover of a book. It's like we wouldn't ever read a book like that or like give a book like that to anyone. And so I don't think
I like how that's how you narrowed it down, because as I was reading this, I was like, I don't think we'd be excellent at any of it, but I do think we would try all these things.
Same. Yeah. Well, they all sound awesome except for the last one. And so, I mean, that's probably like, like I could see writing a book, but we wouldn't title it that. And so that's why that one's out, I think.
Okay. So aside from that, what would you say?
The least likely?
Yeah, least
Okay,
likely.
so ballroom dancing, doubles and tennis.
We would totally compete in a ballroom dancing competition.
Yeah,
That's
because
like
it
a
just
dream
says
of
it
mine.
just says like
it just says compete.
Compete, like try.
Yeah.
Boy, I feel like I could see us trying all these things.
Yeah. Operate a bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
Be main speakers of a nationally televised marriage seminar.
Yeah.
That would have to be the perfect scenario, but like we totally do it.
Yeah, like if somebody, that's one that I guess you don't really get to compete for. And so that might be the least likely out of all those.
Okay, sing a duet. We already do that.
Yeah.
Win a medal. Okay, why
What was
do
the medal
why do you
one?
have to say win a medal? Like a participation medal,
Right.
an Olympic medal in couples figure skating, or win a mixed doubles tennis championship. So really, out of
So
those two,
yeah, because we would compete in either of those for sure, and be far from the
we're
podium.
participators.
Yeah, and so you could probably pick either of those. Boy, I tell you, I'm not great at tennis.
Well, I'm worse.
Are you? No, you're pretty good at tennis, I think. And then
I think I'm okay at singles tennis.
right.
I'm not good at the net. I'm okay
Yeah,
further back.
with the ice skate, I can't hardly even skate backwards. Like you're pretty good at skating backwards.
No.
I can't even do like that cross-legged turn thing.
Do you remember
Like,
though when we used to have Instagram? I think we deleted it, but
Yeah, I
we
do
did.
remember that.
I was pregnant. Everyone's giving me grief for being pregnant, but we were like, we'd skate backwards, and then I'd like put my leg out, and you'd skate backwards. You remember that?
Maybe we could win a
What are
medal.
tricks?
Here I am saying we don't have a shot. It might be time.
Anything's possible.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really fun to look at a list of things though, and be like, oh, I'd love to be on a team with you and all these things.
Oh, same.
You know
No,
what I
no
mean?
doubt. No doubt. Yeah,
It's
it's
like
fun. It's
we-
fun
we
picturing
give it
trying to
our
run
best
a
shot.
bed and breakfast and all of those. Great.
Yeah. So,
Great question. Yeah. Okay, I'll ask you one.
okay.
What is something you thoroughly enjoyed doing as a child and have not done in years?
Oh man, that one's kind of tricky too. Because I feel like a lot of the things that I enjoyed doing as a child, maybe I didn't do them for like our first 5 years of marriage, but I feel like I've like gone back to them slowly over the past few years. maybe like being good on a trampoline. Like I like lived on a trampoline, you know, in my childhood, and like I went out a week ago and tried to do a front flip. It took me like 7 tries.
Yes.
To land on my feet.
Yeah, that was a little longer than a week ago, but it was, I think it was kind of a sad moment for all of us, honestly. Me, the kids, and for you. You've tried a lot of times.
Okay. I will say this, though. Our trampoline has like zero bounce.
That's what I was going to say.
And you finally said, you're like, it's uphill. And so then
So
I
you
bounced
moved
the
it.
other way and my
You
feet
nailed
came
it.
just fine.
Yes. Yeah. With my coaching. Well, and so I was the one telling you that. I was like, okay, because we've let like 3 winters of snow pile up on that thing.
Yeah.
And it's really made it saggy. And so it's taken a lot of the bounce out of it. So that's one thing. And then it was at a slight angle, and you were using the angle to your disadvantage, you know?
Yeah.
You weren't using it to your advantage.
Because I will say, when we went, this was right before Lawrence, so I guess 2 kids ago. We went to the gymnastic park, it was after Lawrence. It was right after Lawrence. We went to that gymnastics birthday, and I could do tons of flips there
Oh, nice.
on those bouncy trampolines.
Yeah. Well, those are crazy bouncy.
Wow, you're just really taking away all my credit. Hello.
Sorry. No.
Okay, well, I would do that.
No, it'll be fun. I think we need to get a new trampoline, honestly, here shortly, and I think you're going to get your game back quickly. You're way better than me, so I'm here. I can't do anything. I am a mess on a trampoline.
You can backflip.
Yeah, but I look so terrible. I can front flip too. I can front flip and back flip. I just look real bad when I do it.
Okay, so what about you? What's something that you would do?
Boy, that's a good question. So let's see here. Yeah, I think something maybe for me, I guess this comes to mind, and it'll be interesting to see if we incorporate this ever into our family flow. And that is like it was our family's collective involvement in the coffee industry. I was 10. Yeah, I guess I was 10 when my dad looked into getting his first coffee shop, and that's when we really started, really as a family, going to coffee trade shows, going to obviously like visiting a bunch of different coffee shops, even going to like getting coached by coffee shop, like paying for consultation. That's what it is. And my dad would always include me. Like it wasn't always a whole family thing, but my dad would oftentimes include me and some of my siblings. And so that became a big part of our family culture. And obviously they still have coffee shops, so it's a big part of my family's culture, but it's not something that you and I have really like embraced for us and for our family. And it's funny because I'm like, man, on one hand, I miss it, but at the same time, I should say that I don't know if I miss it, but I look back at it with very fond memories. I'm like, that was so fun, so special. And I will say, so, this is 23 years ago, maybe when we started this. So, 20 to 23 years ago, I do feel like the specialty coffee scene was, obviously it was newer than it is now. It's far more established. And, I think there was something about the newness of it where it was very mysterious, it was very, it was like walking into a new world. And that was really fun to do as a family. And so if it's not coffee, it'd be fun to do something like that as a family. Whether or not we are pursuing it as a business for our family, just like really getting into an industry, I think is pretty fun. And I'm sure every industry has that you can do that probably in many industries, right? You can nerd out on it and like, pull back the layers and dig deep and all those things, do some deep dives. So that's something.
Yeah. That's cool. I don't know if I would have thought of that for you, but I do think, coffee's in our future somewhere.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's been a time for everything. Everything that I think we thought we dropped, we like go back to at a certain time. For instance, music, with the kids and stuff, I was like, my kids are not learning fiddle. It's a terrible instrument to start. So squeaky. They can learn the piano. And then for you, once I got on board the fiddle train, it was like, the kids need to play because all their cousins play. You were like, I could care less if my kids did fiddle. They're going to be good at other things. Music doesn't need to be a big deal in our home. And then, a year later, it's become like a really big deal in our home. And so I could just see, like, as time goes on, there's certain things that like run really deep, and I think will resurface when the time's right.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Just that, because it's not just coffee, it's like the hospitality industry.
Yeah, there's and it's funny because I have all these memories and experiences from it, but then when I think of other expressions of the hospitality industry, or other like restaurant type things or service based businesses, customer service businesses, it's like, well, man, I still always fall back to coffee because it's like, as much as I love going to a good restaurant, or like whatever, a good bakery, it's like, the overhead, the perishable goods there. Like, I just think like the numbers with coffee make more sense to me, just because I've been closer to it. So I always fall back on that. But yeah, it's on one hand, it's so inspirational when people crush a restaurant, but I feel like it's like the 1%ers that are able to do it, and everybody else is just like these. Just
You have to eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Yeah, and that too. Exactly. You really have to live it. I don't think I'm willing to do that.
Yeah. So basically, coffee will happen before the bed and breakfast happens.
Well, maybe because it's funny because when you read that question, I was like, that sounds pretty fun. But then the more I thought about it, because I know that question passed, but it's funny because I don't like bed and breakfasts.
I know
breakfasts,
you don't.
bed and breakfasts.
Because I recommend going to them for like an overnight or something. Like, we should go to a bed and breakfast. And I'm just like, I hate bed and breakfast.
Yeah, I don't like the whole shared space thing. Because I know that you get a lot, actually. You get your own bathroom and you have your own space. But when you're in a house, it's like you hear everyone. A lot of, and I think the type of people that go to bed and breakfast are the type of people that want to meet other travelers and strike up friendships. And that's like the last thing on my mind when I'm getting away with you. Okay. There's only one relationship that I'm hoping to strike up a friendship with, and that's you when I'm getting away with you. And so when you go down in the morning to grab coffee and somebody's there, hey buddy, how you doing? Where are you from? And I'm like, no. Like I'm not going to do that when I'm on vacation. And so I don't have great experiences with bed and breakfasts. So going back, I think that's the least likely one that I would probably do.
Oh, good. I'm glad we circled back around. That's just been eating at you, so I'm glad you got the opportunity.
Well, when you read it, I had like one of those weak moments of picturing some Hallmark movie that you can't really pinpoint or remember, but you probably saw it in a Hallmark movie where a couple ran a bed and breakfast. You're like, we could totally crush that. But anyways.
We could see yourself as a Hallmark couple. Hopefully a lot less cheesy. I don't know. Maybe just as cheesy, but just not being filmed. Yeah. Okay. What was your most... Oh, so we talked about the physical harm in the beginning.
Okay.
Here's a physical harm question. What was your most serious physical injury as a child or teen?
Oh.
So this is the time you actually did get attacked.
Right.
You're kidding.
I don't think I ever got injured from
This is where the trauma came from.
Oh, right.
The unresolved trauma.
Yeah, we talked about that in the last episode.
I know. I know I shouldn't make light of it, you guys, but sorry.
Yeah, Katie.
Just between Elisha and I.
Yeah, don't act like you're a professional here, okay? You're not a professional. I think probably my most serious injury was when I think I was 14, and we were like wakeboarding or whatever behind a boat, and like inner tubing and stuff with a bunch of friends. Some of my siblings were there, and we were at this point we were tubing. So I think we were either done wakeboarding or we were going to wakeboard next. But then we had the two tubes out, so there was two tubes behind the boat. I got dumped first, and then the boat did a few more, whatever laps or turns, and then the second guy got dumped, and so then the boat was going around to pick people up. And this whole time I was kind of watching the boat, and I was kind of like swimming towards in the direction of where they were. Cause I was like, oh, like we'll just save some time instead of me just waiting here. And also I get stressed out. This was like it was in Puget Sound where there are whales and sharks there. So I was kind of stressed out. And so I was like, I'm not just going to sit here. It's like, it seems like you're safer if you're moving a little bit. And so I was like, I'm going to move towards the boat. And so I was paddling over there, and so the boat driver didn't know. Like, the boat driver knew where he had dumped me, and he made a mental note to that. And then he was paying attention to the other guy, dumped the other guy, and was circling back around to get the other guy first, because he was closer to that guy, obviously, then he was going to come get me. Well, so he picked up the other guy and was still idling by, and at this point, I was close enough, so I grabbed the back of the boat, and he had no clue I was there, which is 100% my fault. Like I just had like basically snuck up on him, and I was just going to climb onto the boat. So I grabbed the boat and I start to climb up, and I put my right leg on the ladder that's hanging down, and my left leg floats over and it gets hooked in the prop. It was like an outboard prop. It wasn't like an actual ski boat. It was like one of those. Well, again, it was in Puget Sound, and so it was. I don't know what style of boat that is, but it wasn't like a true like pure ski boat with like the wind, like the propellers in the middle of it or whatever.
Like an inboard motor?
Like an inboard. Yeah, I think so. So the propeller caught my leg and sucked me down underneath the water. So I was fully submerged.
Scary.
It was scary. It was terrifying. And so this was cold. Okay. This was early in the summer, and Puget Sound's like pretty cold year round. And it was really cold because I think it was like end of May or beginning of June. And so I was wearing a wetsuit and, or like, a half wetsuit and a life jacket, and the propeller stopped at my life jacket. Like I think my life jacket, it was just idling too. So like it wasn't going crazy hard, and it just got stuck. It stopped in my life jacket. So I was tangled up in the propeller, and nobody saw me on the boat get sucked down except for my friend Noah Klein. He's the only person that saw me get, and I didn't have a chance to yell or scream or anything. It was just like, thump, like that.
No, I knew you wouldn't have anyways.
Yeah,
Your
exactly.
eyes would have just been huge.
Yeah, I'd never have the ability to like make noise when I'm scared. I'm silent as the grave when things are going poorly for me. And so he's the only person that saw me, and he jumps in to the water and starts yanking to get me out of get me unstuck. And that felt like forever. That was only a few seconds, but when you're stuck underwater, it feels like a long time. And there was a couple times where I'd come up because the back of the boat would bob up and I could breathe, and then I'd go back down. So that was the scariest part, was being stuck underwater for me. Like I was like, wow. So he freed me up and he pushed me up onto the deck of the boat. And I was like, at that point, I was like, that was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. Because I was like stuck in the propeller underwater. And then I looked down at my leg, okay, and I have this half wetsuit. And I mean, I've got a gnarly scar here, right here, that I'm not going to like show everybody in the camera, but whatever.
Like
but
how high are you going to pull those shorts
this
up?
is a solid.
It's huge,
That
you guys.
is
It's maybe
not,
like
that's not 12 inches, but like that's probably
that's
10
12
inches. 10, I don't know.
And like 2 inches wide. Like it's the fattest.
But that was so bizarre because he pushed me up onto the deck, and I looked down, and I still remember so clearly just like the muscle hanging out of my leg, all the muscles, my quad is just filleted, like that, right there, hanging open. And I was like, oh, and again, I didn't feel anything, like I couldn't feel pain, and so my brain's trying to register what the heck's going on? Because it all happened. I didn't feel getting cut. I didn't feel, it was just like this thunk, I'm stuck underwater. And when I come up, I get and my legs wide open. There wasn't a lot of blood, but what was scary was, and so I could see that. But then my wetsuit's all ripped up, all the way up past my life jacket, right? So like you can see that it got all torn up in here, and the only cut you could see was right there on my leg. But I didn't know how much further up it went. Or how far?
That's been all of our fear.
Yeah, or how far to the side it went. And so, and it's crazy because the place that we had launched from, our friend's house, it was this crazy like switchback, kind of like cliff. It was a switchback trail to get down to the water, and so I had siblings there, and my brother was like, we gotta find a different, like somebody called 911. We got to find a different place for the ambulance to meet us. Because they were trying to picture carrying me up like this forever long switchback. And they're like, the ambulance isn't going to be able to come to the beach. And so I don't know all the details actually at this point, but I know they were able to call 911 and find a place like across the harbor or whatever where an ambulance could meet us on the beach. And they just like, cranked it on the boat. And we just put a ton of pressure on it. And again, I never felt, it was the weirdest thing, putting my own hands on it and not feeling a thing, like not feeling any pain and just trying to put pressure on it right there. And again, never a ton of blood. It was crazy. So it hit, missed the femoral artery by like less than an inch. I had and this is what's nuts too, because like this is down to the bone, right? The first 10 inches, that's like, and then it goes all the way up, like up to my gut. I still have scars here, but those are all very superficial.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like the abrasions got less and less. Obviously, like the I don't know, the propeller was slowing down, or there's just more protection up there from the thicker wetsuit or life jacket or whatever. So anyways, the ambulance picked me up. It's the only ambulance ride I've ever had. And they brought me, they put me under. That's the only time I've been put under too. I think that's the only time I've been like fully exposed naked on a operating, like whatever you call that, table too. And I remember being very cognitive the whole time because it's like you're very vulnerable and very exposed because they have to like cut the wetsuit off of you. And I didn't have anything underneath. I didn't have anything on underneath. And there's just so many people. And I was like, man, I'm going to die naked here on this operating table. So what was the question? There was like an accident that I've had or an injury.
Yeah, your most serious physical injury.
I think that was
pretty
probably
serious.
I feel like that was pretty serious because I was in the hospital for like a few days, maybe like 4 nights or something.
Yeah.
They actually had to put me under, clean it all out, because I don't know. I guess there's.
Well, it's gnarly. Your scar is gnarly. And when we're engaged at this point, and Elisha brings up something about like fertility. Like, he goes, how we're like driving home one night. He's like, so how do you know like if you're infertile? Like, is there a way to know that like before you get married?
It was like our first date. I thought it'd be a good
icebreaker.
Yeah.
And I remember because I knew this story. I've seen his scar. I had no clue how high it went or what it.
Yeah, if it took a turn. Yeah.
If it took a turn, I had no clue. And so I didn't say anything. I was just kind of like, oh, I don't know. I think you kind of just, for the average person, you just kind of figure it out after you're married. So we were talking through like maybe just signs of general health or whatever. And then I remember talking to my mom that night and I was like, should I ask him if like he thinks he can have kids because of the accident or something? But anyways, it was kind of funny. Because I didn't know, we were still like so uncomfortable with each other and I didn't know how to talk to you about it.
Yeah. But
that was the first time I wondered.
Yeah, because that's like
but it was all on your leg.
Yeah.
So anyways, but yeah, it looks crazy. Anyways.
What about for you? When you feel
I don't have a story.
I think you do. You did all sorts of crazy things. I feel like you were getting hurt all the time.
I didn't really get injured.
Is that right? You have broken bones, stitches?
I don't have any broken bones.
Stitches?
I have a couple stitches. I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but I was 5 and we took back when, they made stuff not as safe as they do now. And we could take the swings off of the chains. So we took the seats off and we're just pretending we were Tarzan and swinging on the chains of the swing. And at the bottom, there were hooks, metal hooks. Right. They would go hook the swings. And somehow I slipped and it caught in my upper thigh, the hook. And I was hanging from a hook in my upper thigh. And we had been running into my mom and saying, Mommy, come out, look at our tricks. And she was on the phone with my dad and she was getting really annoyed. So she's like, don't come back in the house.
Yeah. Don't cry wolf.
Yeah. So I told my 4-year-old sister, I was like, go in the house and get Mommy. And she's like, Kyla's like super obedient. And she's like, no, Mama said not to go in the house. I'm like, Kyla, I'm dying. Like I'm hanging upside down by my thigh, just ripping my skin open. Like,
so it was like in your skin.
Yeah. Like you know, like have you ever seen cow butchered and they like hook it with those hooks? Anyways, that was me upside down by a hook in my thigh. So a pretty gnarly scar there. My dad called, I don't know if she was on the phone with my dad, but maybe she was. She was on the phone with someone. She got a hold of my dad and he was actually a firefighter paramedic at the time. So he was on the call and he came with the ambulance and picked me up.
No, the ambulance came? Did you ride in the ambulance?
Yeah, I rode in the ambulance.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty messed up. They were worried about like, I don't know, tetanus. My thigh was pretty ripped up. I had to get stitches and stuff.
Whoa, I didn't realize you rode an ambulance. And your dad was
Yeah, so he sat in the back
in
the ambulance with me, which is pretty cool. Yeah, what's kind of funny is a couple years later, my brother had a drowning incident and my dad was also on call and went on that call and picked him up.
Right, because he lost consciousness, right?
Yeah,
Right,
so
crazy.
Anyways, but yeah, that was a pretty freaky experience for me. But nothing, I mean, it was nothing that was life or death, but I still have clear memories of the vulnerability of hanging upside down and be like, I cannot move. I'm relying on my sister that's, 15 months older to get my mom to come out here.
She's 15 months younger. Yeah.
Yeah, 15 months younger.
Yeah.
And I had just turned 5. So yeah, kind of crazy. But anyways, nothing was close to very serious.
It's great. I learned some new things about you tonight, Katie, babe.
I learned some new
What a
things
great-
about you.
What a great 101 conversation starters for couples by Gary Chapman. What a great resource.
Yeah, not sponsored, but good date. Thank you guys for joining us.
Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.